Good morning, Hudson View family. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you're staying safe and healthy during this time. I miss you all. Looking forward to the day that we all can be together soon, Lord willing. Thank you, Pastor Flowers, for allowing me to share my testimony briefly. And thank you all as well for listening. As long as I can remember, God has been a part of my life. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten until sophomore year in high school, and my family and I attended a Methodist church in Queens. Both my parents grew up Methodist in India, and so when they came over to the U.S., they had found a church that they liked, and that's the church we had attended for many years. Growing up in the Lall household, church was never an option. When it came to the Lord's Day on Sunday, we had to go to church. There was no debate about that. We went to church. And Monday through Friday, going to Catholic school, religion was one of my subjects as part of learning other things, English, math, science, all part of, the regular school day. So I was always exposed to God and Him being a part of my life, just learning about Him and Jesus and all the different Bible stories and doctrines and everything that came with learning about Him. If you were to ask me if I were to go to heaven, I'd probably answer you yes back then, because I thought that if I was a good enough person and I did enough good works, I believed in God, I gave my offerings, and I tried to be just a good person, just relying totally on merits, I would say yes, that would get me into heaven. And so that was my thinking for a very, very long time. And it continued on well into my high school years, and then around my college years, I really noticed that I wasn't going to church as much. I went to church sporadically, maybe once a month. We were going to different churches, didn't really have a home church to go to for many reasons. And so I think that played a part. Also, I felt that church was more of a habit for me, just because it was instilled that you had to go to church. But I was going to church because probably for all the wrong reasons, right? I wasn't going to church to really worship God and what He did for me. I was going because you had to go to church. And so that really was a point in my life where I wasn't really close to God or even, really looked for Him. Around the year 2000, my grandmother, who was living with us at the time, had gotten ill, and she was admitted to St. John's Riverside Hospital right there on North Broadway. And so I went to go visit her. And at the time, there was her nurse at St. John's, which most of you already know, Amrita Chu, was there. She was looking after my grandmother. I call her Amrita Auntie. Obviously, everyone calls her Mrs. Chu or Amrita. And so I went to go see my grandmother, and I met Mrs. Chu, Amrita Auntie. And so she knew me, but I didn't really know her. Just a quick backstory. Her and my parents go way back, probably before I was even born. And technically, she is my godmother. But they had lost contact for many years. And so I never really met her, but she knew exactly who I was. We talked, just basic conversation. She asked what I was doing, where I was going to school, what I did for work, and just chit chat. And then finally, she had told me about a Friends Day service at her church, which was Hudson View Baptist Church. And she had invited me to come to that. And so I was like, sure, why not? I was going to different churches anyway, and it couldn't hurt. And so she told me about it, and it was coming in about a few weeks. So she actually, just to make sure I did go, she followed up with a phone call and said, hey, tomorrow's Friends Day. I think it was a Saturday night. Tomorrow's Friends Day. Me and Jimmy are going to pick you up. So Jimmy Uncle and Amrita Auntie both came and got me that Sunday. And I'd gone. That was the first time I went to Hudson View Baptist Church. Pastor Durkin was the pastor at the time. And so the message that day was just a message about salvation, a simple gospel message about salvation, and a message that I never really heard ever, because I never really learned about salvation. And that was something new to me, talking about that the only way to go to heaven is through Jesus Christ, and that if you have not accepted Him as your Lord and Savior, you're going to hell. And that was all new to me, because I thought that my own works would get me to into heaven. I never, I believe in God. That's good enough. My works should be good enough. But never had to pray the sinner's prayer and actually really have my sins forgiven in that way. So I had some questions about that. And a few weeks later after that, I had approached Pastor Jerking at the time and asked him if he could just explain a little bit more about salvation. And so right in the Choose home, I had one night, I went right in their dining room, and Pastor Jerking had shown me from the Bible exactly what it meant to be saved. And all the questions that I had about, or all the things I did learn, was wrong. I had no idea. I was totally opposite of what the Bible said. And so right then and there, I did pray the sinner's prayer. I asked Lord, right then that night, I asked Jesus to come into my life, and I got saved right there in the Choose home. And I just wanted to share two verses, my assurance of salvation. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And John 14:6, Jesus proclaimed, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. And one lesson I learned, one guiding principle that I learned so far in my Christian life, is that God is always there. He will not forsake you. He is faithful. All those years that I was going on the opposite path, all those times that I was believing in false doctrine, he was always there. And I just want to share a quick verse that most of you know, Philippians 4:6. In nothing be anxious, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God. And especially in this time when we can go to God in prayer and read his word, it's just a comfort and blessing. To me, I always thought Christianity was a religion, but it's not. It's your personal relationship with Jesus Christ, something that I did not have. And that is one thing that I've learned, is that, God is alive today. He's alive tomorrow. He was alive yesterday. And he will remain faithful. And that's just one thing that I definitely have learned, among many other things. And I just wanted to thank you for listening to this, just a short testimony of mine. Thank you.